and welcome to this channel. My name is Miriam and I love everything about books. In 2021 I challenged myself to read 365 books. Yes, you heard that correctly, a book a day. And every week I post a weekly wrap-up video in which I tell you about the books I finished in the past week. In this weekly wrap-up video it's about the books I read from Saturday the 10th of April until Friday the 16th of April. And I read 6 books in the past week. That's like not enough for my challenge, but I was a bit ahead, so it's alright. The first book I finished in this week was The Pearl Sister by Lucinda Riley, an audiobook. I had been listening to it for 2 weeks and I listened to all the other books in the Seven Sisters series by Lucinda Riley, and all the other books were really hard to get through. But this one I put on 1.5 speed immediately when I started to listen to it, so not after a while. Usually I start out with 1.25 and then I go to 1.5, and sometimes if I want to finish a book real quick I put it on 2, but it's not my preferred method. And well, I think it was easier to get into the story and to listen to it when I put it on 1.5 speed. And on one hand I like this story better than the other stories in the Seven Sisters series, but there were so many vague things that I did not really like. It was definitely interesting, but still I had some issues, and I do have some issues with this series, but I plan on doing an entire video on ranking this series when I've finished all the books. I did not start out the 5th book. I wanted to listen to some other books before I'm going to do that. The next book I finished was a Dutch original book called the Innocence Domain by Johan Leeflang, and the title can be translated as the 21st Mine, and it's a, I think, middle grade book that was not so big, so that was great. And as you might know, I'm an author myself, and this author publishes at the same publisher as I do, and we sort of know one another, so I decided I was going to read his books. And he wrote an entire series. I think the 6th book in the series came out a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to read 1 book a month from this series because I like his writing style and the adventure the children had. It's mixed with some historical facts, and I thought that was great. And next I read this novella by Melissa, I don't know how to say her last name. Anyway, I think the English title is Love by the Letter, and I read it before, but I just wanted to read it because it's a quick read and the characters are quite interesting. The female main character is a reader and she's really good with literature and language, and the male character has dyslexia, so yeah. He wants to find a wife, but he can't write letters because it's in a time when people wrote letters to newspapers or potential brides. I don't know what the time is called, but it's about that time, and his letter is full of spelling mistakes, so no one wants him. And then he's going to ask the female main character in this book to help him with that. And she is secretly in love with him, and he is actually secretly in love with her as well. So it was a very predictable story, but I enjoyed it anyway. When I finished Love by the Letter, I started reading Daughters of the Northern Shores in the Blackbird Mountain series, I believe. And I have mixed feelings with that book. The storyline was really interesting and I liked reading about these characters, but on the other hand sometimes I had the feeling that the writer tried to be poetic and everything, and a bit like I don't know how to say it, but I think especially at the part where she tried to be poetic it got a bit boring. But I thought it was great to read more about deaf people and how they communicate, because my mom is actually hearing impaired, so we are trying to learn some sign language, but it's quite difficult. But I thought that was interesting to read about, and also it takes place like 25 years after the Civil War, something like that, and it's so strange to read about all the medical things in the book. I mean, they hardly knew anything about disinfecting things. Like, when a surgeon used to do an operation, he would not change his outfit. You do not say it like that, but you get what I mean. So he would not change at all. So he would be, yeah, that's so weird. It's so weird. It seems so surreal. I mean, today we live in where you really have to disinfect your hands when you go into a shop, something like that. So that's the other side. But it's so strange to think that about 120 years ago, people did not know about infections because of material that was not sterilized and things like that. Yeah, I think that was interesting to learn about this book. I started a new audiobook. I started listening to the Dutch version of Jenny Colgan's new book, The Little Shop of Happy Ever After, and it was such a cute book about books. I mean, when a book is about books, I usually like that, and this book was a cute, fun read, and I really enjoyed it, and I think it's actually my favorite book of this week. Next to the other book I read, the last book I finished this week, which was The Writing Desk by Rachel Hauck. I mean, that was about an author struggling with writer's block, and reading that book really made me want to write more. And I actually, I told you in the C.S. Lewis video that I was writing or editing a book, and I actually finished that last week as well. And I think reading a book about writing and wanting to write more definitely helped with that. So yeah, in the Writing Desk we have a dual timeline. You follow, what's wrong with me? I forget names of characters. That used to be less. Tenley. She's called Tenley, the author, and she lives in present day America. And on the other hand, you follow Buddy, who is someone who lives in 1906, 1907, something like that. There was actually a date on top of the pages. And she's also an author, and actually a really famous author of that time steals her manuscript. And you read more about that in the Fifth Avenue Story Society by Rachel Hauck, which was also one of my favorite books of the year. And it was really interesting to get some more background information on that. And both Tenley and Buddy have to make some huge decisions because people do not take them seriously in their goals and dreams. And I thought it was really interesting. Although the writer's block of Tenley, well, if I had a writer's block, which, yeah, usually I do not really have a writer's block. I have more like a writing slump, where I do want to write and I know what to write about, but on the other hand can't find the energy to write, something like that. Anyway, I did not think Tenley had a very good approach to her writer's block, but not all authors are the same, so we experience things differently. And this book helped me write, so I'm not complaining or anything like that. Anyway, these were the books I read in the past week. Not so much as I used to, and they almost all of them were really small books. But I'm really excited about what this next week is going to bring me, because I have some good news on the Anne of Green Gables thing. I finished Anne of Green Gables. I told you about that in my previous weekly wrap-up video, and I wanted to continue that series. So I found the ebook of the complete Anne of Green Gables collection for only 99 cents. I was so happy with that. So maybe I will read another Anne of Green Gables book in this next week. You'll see all about that in next week's weekly wrap-up video. If you're not a subscriber yet of my channel and you want to follow me on my journey where I read 365 books, then consider subscribing so you won't miss that video or any other videos I make. Usually on Monday I upload a weekly wrap-up video, and on Thursday I have some general bookies themed videos, or like last week I did a reading and writing vlog on C.S. Lewis. You should check that out as well. It already inspired some people, so maybe it will inspire you as well. Anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and let me know what was a great book you read in the past week or month, or however, a great book you read lately. Let me know in a comment, and as always, happy reading.